Coco, the African puppet girl doll, who screams and dances in the Jamaican night. The old house stood on a small hill overlooking the twinkling lights of Montego Bay. Locals whispered it was duppy haunted, but old Miss Evangeline just chuckled. She'd lived there all her 80 years, and the only spirits were the memories she held dear. On the wide veranda, amidst the fragrant night jasmine, sat Coco. Coco wasn't just any doll. She was a handcrafted African puppet girl, with dark, polished wood skin, intricately beaded braids, and wide, painted eyes that seemed to hold a mischievous glint. Miss Evangeline had brought her back from a trip many years ago, and Coco had become a silent fixture on the veranda, watching the moon rise and the fireflies dance. Tonight, however, was different. The air was thick with the scent of impending rain, and a strange energy pulsed through the night. Miss Evangeline had already gone to bed, the rhythmic creak of her old rocking chair finally ceasing. The only sound was the gentle rustling of leaves in the warm breeze. Then it started. A soft whimper, like a frightened child, drifted from where Coco sat. The sound grew, morphing into a high-pitched scream that sliced through the stillness of the Jamaican night. It wasn't a human scream, but something more raw, more primal, filled with a strange, unsettling joy. Coco, the wooden puppet girl, was moving. Her small, jointed limbs twitched, then jerked. She rose to her feet, her beaded braids swaying wildly. Her painted eyes seemed to glow in the darkness as she began to dance. Not a graceful, doll-like dance, but a frantic, ecstatic whirling. Her wooden feet tapped against the weathered veranda floor, a rapid, rhythmic beat accompanying her eerie screams. The dance was a whirlwind of movement. Coco spun and leaped, her arms flailing, her head thrown back in what looked like unrestrained glee. The screams continued, echoing across the hillside, a bizarre symphony of terror and delight. Down in the small village, dogs began to howl. Some fishermen out on the late-night sea swore they heard a banshee. The air crackled with an unseen energy, the very shadows on the veranda seeming to writhe along with the dancing puppet. What had awakened Coco? Was it the approaching storm, the strange humidity in the air, or something else? Something tied to the old house and the whispers of duppies? As Coco danced, her screams took on a different quality. They became a chant, a rhythmic calling out into the night. It was a language no one understood, yet it felt ancient and powerful, resonating with the deep, earthy magic of the island. Miss Evangeline, though her room was at the back of the house, was a light sleeper. The commotion eventually reached her. She sat up in bed, her heart thumping. That wasn't the wind. That wasn't an animal. Slowly, cautiously, she made her way to the veranda. The sight that greeted her made her gasp. Coco, her silent companion for so many years, was a frenzy of motion, a screaming, dancing dervish in the moonlight. Fear mixed with a strange sense of familiarity washed over Miss Evangeline. She had heard tales of dolls coming to life, imbued with spirits, especially under a full moon or before a storm. Was Coco possessed? Yet there was something about the dance that wasn't entirely malevolent. It was wild, untamed, but also seemed celebratory. As if Coco was releasing a pent-up energy, a hidden spirit that had finally found its voice. Miss Evangeline didn't rush forward. She stood in the doorway, watching. The screams and the frantic dance continued for what felt like an eternity. The rhythmic tapping of Coco's feet on the wooden floor became almost hypnotic. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Coco froze mid-twirl, her small wooden body still. The last scream faded into the night. Silence descended once more, heavy and profound. Miss Evangeline slowly approached the puppet. Coco's painted eyes stared blankly ahead, the mischievous glint gone. Her limbs were still, her beaded braids undisturbed. She was just Coco again, the silent African puppet girl doll. Miss Evangeline gently picked her up. Coco felt cold and still in her hands. She carried her back to her usual spot on the veranda chair and sat beside her, gazing out at the now starlit sky. The scent of jasmine filled the air, the storm having passed just beyond their hill. She didn't know what had happened. Perhaps it was a trick of the night, a fleeting dream brought on by this strange atmosphere. But she couldn't shake the memory of the screaming, dancing puppet. From that night on, Miss Evangeline looked at Coco with new eyes. She wondered what secrets the silent doll held, what dormant spirit resided within its wooden frame. And sometimes, when the air was thick with the scent of rain and the moon hung high in the Jamaican sky, she would sit on the veranda, listening to the night, half expecting to hear the faint sound of a scream and the rhythmic tapping of dancing feet. But Coco remained still, a silent guardian of the old house on the hill, leaving Miss Evangeline to forever ponder the mystery of the puppet girl who danced in the night.